What the hell is Saw Sports or whatever that last call was talking about? What the hell is that?
Guys are from Free Love, man.
What is up, Sauce Nation? It is your boy Hector Flores coming at you with a video about the Houston Dynamo. And as you can see, I'm in my Texans gear because obviously it's Sunday night when I made this video. So, you know, I do love Sunday night football because you guys know I love me some Carrie Underwood. And something about Chris Collinsworth slides-ins, I don't know, I like it. But we're going to talk about the Houston Dynamo. Now, there's been some moves that the Dynamo have made as far as trades go. I should have probably have done a video about it beforehand, but just didn't have time, especially now with school. And now that I'm going more closer to graduation, so I'm more being focused on that as of right now. But plus, you know, you got the Rockets going on as well, which if you guys don't know, I do work for the Houston Rockets. But I'm going to definitely try to push out this content for you. So I'm going to try to make it as short as possible, but it is going to be a long video. So if you guys stick through this, man, you guys are amazing. But before I get to that, man, make sure you guys subscribe to Sauce Sports TV, as this is the channel that will cover all the other teams here in H-Town and the H-Town area, like the Astros, the Dynamo, and the Houston Rockets. And like I said, any other team here in Houston. So if you guys want that content, subscribe to Sauce Sports TV. And also, make sure you guys like this video and comment if you want to be featured for Comment of the Day, which will be also featured at the end of this video. So stay tuned for that. So let's get going with this video. So since my video that I made on Darwin Quintero, Dynamo actually had 2 trades done, and it was with Nashville SC and Montreal Impact. Now, I know I said in that video that it was the trade deadline, which is true, but I guess MLS wanted to be on their own program and decided to go ahead and make me look like an idiot, but that's not a big deal. So let's go ahead and cover these 2 trades. So with Nashville SC, they had their upcoming expansion draft, and one of the players that they selected in that expansion draft was used to be traded to the Houston Dynamo. So with that Nashville SC trade, the Dynamo ended up receiving Zadek Valentin, a right back that can also play left back, who is also 28 years old. So I think a pretty decent addition. Plus, he used to play with Tab Ramos with the U20 team, so there is some connection. And this also gives you a sign that front office is working with Tab Ramos to bring in his guys, as well as $75,000 that can be used for allocation money for transfers. What Nashville got was Joe Willis. So in my video that I covered goalkeepers, I did mention that this would probably be the player that I would most likely look at moving from this season, and the Dynamo ended up doing it. Now, the second trade was with the Montreal Impact, and what that trade consisted of, what the Dynamo ended up getting is Victor Cabrera, who's a center back. Isn't really playing much with Montreal. From what I've heard from Montreal Impact fans, he's not really that good anyways, but with him being 26 years old, I think he'd be an okay depth piece. Plus $100,000 that could be used for target allocation money, which I am more than okay with. It's a good amount of money can use to be bringing in some more talent. And what they ended up getting was Romel Kyoto. It just wasn't looking good for him so far with the Dynamo, so I think he gets a fresh start, goes to a team, you know, hopefully he can build himself back up, you know, and maybe get called right again for the Honduran national team. So those are the 2 trades. From what I got from this is we got rid of guys that we were going to get rid of anyways, so we ended up getting something in return. I think Zadek Valentin will be solid. I don't think he'll be competing for the starting position because I think Jose Bizema owns that for the right back. Now, left back is going to be interesting to see, but I mean, with Adam Blumenfeld on the roster, I think that Valentin will be definitely a key part for depth reasons. And Cabrera, I feel the same way. But I think Valentin definitely has a better shot as competing for a starting position. So aside from these, I think we did really good for the trades. So the Houston Dynamo end up picking up options for 9 players, and these 9 players are Alejandro Fuenmayor, Nico Hansen, Sam Junqua, Tomas Martinez, Tommy McNamara, Michael Nelson, Christian Ramirez, Memo Rodriguez, and Michael Salazar. Most of these guys that are on this list, I'm actually more than okay with keeping them on the roster. Alejandro Fuenmayor is obviously somebody that I definitely want to see get put in more with the starting lineup, so I'm definitely great with this decision. Nico Hansen, I don't think we got enough from him, so I definitely think that this gives him an opportunity to go out there and earn a spot with the team, so I definitely want to see more from him. Sam Junqua, I'm just happy that we're keeping a draft pick. No other thing to say beside that. I definitely want to see what he brings to the table, but I'm just happy that we're actually keeping keeping a draft pick. And as you guys know, I hate the MLS draft. Tomas Martinez. Now, what this tells me is I just don't think there's many teams that are out there wanting Tomas Martinez right now because of the way he's been performing with the Dynamo. But I think with Tab Ramos, if he can build something around him, I think that this will be a smart move. Because I do think Tomas Martinez can really be something. It's just if they play him right. Now, Tommy McNamara, I have a lot of problems with him. But I think that now where he's up there, and I don't know if he's up there in age entirely, but I know that he's a lot slower. I think if they bring him more down to be a midfielder, would probably be the smarter decision with Tommy McNamara because I just don't see him as a winger. Michael Nelson, you got to keep the goalkeeper in. Once again, same thing with Sam Junqua. I'm glad we're keeping a draft pick. Christian Ramirez, I mean, in the situation that we lose Mauro Manotas, you know, this is definitely the guy that will step up for the meantime until we find another young striker that can step up for him. But I think Christian Ramirez, obviously, he's solid. He's performed very well since he's been with us. And the other thing I gotta say is this is a good thing to have in case Mauro Manotas does get sold, because that is a possibility. Because now we heard rumors that there is also teams in Europe, not only Cruz Azul, but teams in Europe that are also interested in Mauro Manotas. Memo Rodriguez, I mean, he's my favorite player. You guys know it. I don't have to say much else about that one. And Michael Salazar, another player that's done very well with Rio Grande Valley, I think deserves an opportunity to come up with the Dynamo and see what he can do in the MLS. So essentially with all these pickups, I'm great with all of them. The only one I really have a problem with is Tommy McNamara, and that's just because of he's just not the same player that we saw from New York City FC. But I think if you bring him down to midfield, kind of a position that doesn't really demand that much pace, I think he will fare very well with the Dynamo. As well as picking up options, the Dynamo also declined 3 players for an option. And those 3 players are Eric Bird, Juan David Cabezas, and Tyler Derrick. Eric Bird, I just don't think he was going to ever break the starting lineup, let alone the bench. It's unfortunate for him, but hopefully maybe he goes to a team that will utilize him. So all the best of luck to Eric Bird. Juan David Cabezas, I mean, with his age and the injuries that he's been getting, it was just a matter of time that the Dynamo were just going to have to move on from him, especially the way Juan David Cabezas has been performing. It's just really hard to ignore. So it makes sense that the Dynamo would move on from Juan David Cabezas. But it's very unfortunate. He was really great when he was with that first year he was with us. It's a shame that he wasn't able to stay healthy, but you know it happens, man. Just something that Ed's always said. Your best ability is your availability, and unfortunately Juan David Cabezas was just not able to be available for a lot of games. And Tyler Derrick, now I know I said that I would prefer Tyler Derrick just because of his athleticism, and I mean he is a homegrown talent. He's the first homegrown player that the Dynamo ever called up, and it's just I think the Dynamo just are not really set on having Tyler Derrick. Honestly, any of the keepers you can probably not be very confident in anyways, but what this tells me right now is that Dynamo will be going for a goalkeeper come from another trade, or possibly once the January transfer window opens up, which is a good sign because that shows the Dynamo will be making moves. Or if not, maybe they do believe in Michael Nelson can step up and reach that level as a starting goalkeeper for the Dynamo. So I'm really excited as far as looking at it from the future perspective, but obviously Juan David Cabezas is the one that hurts me the most, but you know, it happens, man. So from these options declined, I'm really okay with all 3 of them, and I understand completely why they're getting declined. So there's that. Now there is a total of 4 players that are actually expired now, so they are no longer under contract with the Dynamo, and those players are Darwin Seren, AJ De La Garza, Minor Figueroa, and Kevin Garcia. Now there is ongoing discussions for some players about making a return and trying to get a deal set up. Hopefully it's just 2 players, which is to me is Darwin Seren, just because you need depth at that defensive midfield position, and Minor Figueroa because I think he's deserved to at least be brought back with the team because I think he did a really good job. Near the end he was kind of getting tired out, but it's understandable, especially with his age. AJ De La Garza, which is funny because I did see him at the Rockets game when I was working it because I was escorting the Clutch City Dancers and he was in one of the suites. But I just think it's time for AJ De La Garza to move on. I just don't think he was able to do as much as what he hoped he could have done. He got hurt, so I think the Dynamo should just move on from AJ De La Garza. And if you guys don't know this by now, I hate Kevin Garcia, so I'm more than okay if the Dynamo choose to move on from Kevin Garcia. Bye Felicia. I'm good with that one. So that's how I feel about the contracts expiring. Like I said, if I were to keep any of these guys, it would be Darwin Sedan and Minor Figueroa, and that's just because we need depth in the midfield and we do need depth at the center back position. So I'm okay with those decisions if they choose to re-sign those guys. So let's go ahead and get to the roster and break it down. So the Houston Dynamo currently have 21 players in their roster. That's obviously removing the players that have been declined and players that are without contract. So this is all now players under contract for the 2020 season. And we'll start off with the goalkeeper position. The only player that we have at goalkeeper is Michael Nelson. Obviously, we declined Tyler Derrick and we traded away Joe Willis. So Michael Nelson is the only goalkeeper on our roster. For the defense, we have Alejandro Fuenmayor, Kiki Struna, Adam Lundqvist, Jose Bizima, Eric McHugh, Sam Junqua, Victor Cabrera, and Zarek Valentin. I think that ideally, once you look at this, you want to go ahead and find yourself another fullback, especially to back up for Adam Lundqvist. Though Zarek Valentin can play left back and right back, but you definitely want to bring in another one or two fullbacks to just have good depth there. So you ideally want to have at least 5 fullbacks. For center backs, I would say if they're able to bring back Minor Figueroa, I think you're pretty set at the center back position. So I think just bring in 2 more fullbacks and a center back, and your defense is actually pretty solid. For the midfield, you have Memo Rodriguez, Tomas Martinez, Tommy McNamara, Nico Hansen, Matias Vera, and Boniek Garcia. Now, the first thing I'm going to tell y'all that I'm really excited about is that the Dynamo listed Tommy McNamara as a midfielder. I can't stress that enough because at least that tells me, though they'll probably put him out on the wing every once in a while, utilizing him in the midfield is probably the best decision for him. But as far as looking at it, you definitely need to bring in some depth for the midfield as well. Maybe add another 2 midfielders, someone that will compete with Tomas Martinez, in my opinion, for that cam position. Though I think Memo Rodriguez can definitely be that competition for him. Definitely, you need to bring in one more defensive midfielder because I think Matias Vera and Boniek Garcia, and I'll even throw Tommy McNamara in that mix, could honestly be put in for that more deeper midfielder. Because I mean, like I said, Tommy McNamara, he's just too slow for me, so I will probably put him a little bit more back now, not push him too much on the attack. But I think add 2 more midfielders, ideally a defensive midfielder for sure. Your midfield will be pretty decent looking. And for the forwards, you have Mauro Manotas, Christian Ramirez, Albert Feliz, Michael Salazar, Ronaldo Pena, and Darwin Quinteros. As far as forwards go, I like it. I mean, I do think that the possibility that Mauro Manotas will be getting sold in the transfer window, and as well as Albert Feliz. I just don't see why the Dynamo wouldn't try to, because you're gonna get a lot of money from these guys, money that you can use. Something that we've been complaining about with the front office is that they don't spend a lot of money, and now that you're bringing a surplus of cash, it's going to motivate this front office to go ahead and use that money, maybe even throw in some extra money to go ahead and get some talent. As far as forwards go, I think with Christian Ramirez, Michael Salazar, and Ronaldo Pena will be fine. I will say you need to add some wingers, because if that's the case, then it does give an opportunity for Nico Hansen to step up on that left wing, but you also have Memo Rodriguez that can obviously play on the wing. Without Albert Feliz, obviously you have Darwin Quintero step up, but you definitely want to find more depth in the wing position. I think forward is fine with 3 forwards. If you want to add another one, that's fine, depending on what formation you're going to be utilizing. So if you're going to just use one striker alone on your formation, I think that you're fine with 3 forwards. But as far as wingers goes, yeah, you need to bring in more wingers. I would say, with Albert Feliz leaving and Mauro Manotas leaving, I would go ahead and try to get full wingers into this team. And that sounds a lot, but for depth reasons, you need 2 extra wingers, one for the left, one for the right. And then obviously you definitely need to bring in a starter. And obviously one just in case Darwin Quintero gets put in at forward more than he is at winger. So I think that you need to bring in wingers is definitely going to be a top one. Now, my ranking of needs as far as for each position, the primary need is going to be goalkeeper. I mean, it's plainly obvious. You only have one goalkeeper. Ideally, you want to have 3 keepers on your roster, so you definitely want to bring in 2 more goalkeepers. The second one is going to be wingers. You need to address the wing. You need to get, especially because I'm telling y'all, Mauro Manotas and Albert Feliz will be signed. That is mark my motherfucking words, and I'm going to stick with it. So you definitely need to bring in depth for the wing, even though Mauro Manotas is a striker, obviously, but you definitely need to bring wing. Next, I would say midfielders. Forwards would be, I guess, the next one, and then defenders will be last. I don't think you really need too much defense help. I mean, maybe bring in fullbacks for sure, but I mean, I like the idea of having Alejandro Fuenmayor and Kiki Struna as your center back pairing, Jose Bizima on the right as the right back, and on the left back being Adam Bloomfield. I think at least your back 4 is set. Now, bringing in some depth, I think that's going to be important. Obviously, Minor Figueroa being brought back to the center back position kind of eases that issue, but definitely bringing in some more fullbacks that can help. But you do have the value of having Zaga Valentin, who can play both sides. But I definitely think that the defense isn't the most drastic thing you need to address, but it will help when you add in some more help at the fullback position. Because I think as far as the center back position, it's the one that's most says to me. But yeah, like I said, so reiterating, sorry about that. The needs, obviously, goalkeepers number 1. Number 2 would be wingers. Midfielders will be right there in 3rd. Forwards, I'm going to put at 4th, and then last would be defenders. So those are the things that we would need to address as far as before we go into the 2020 season. But aside from all that, man, I'm really excited. I do like the idea that the thought that the front office is working with Tab Ramos and is trying to bring in guys that Tab Ramos wants. Obviously, Zaga Valentin shows that, but then Darwin Quintero has also been speculated to be a guy that Tab Ramos wanted. So it's showing me more and more that this front office is trying to buy in to what the Dynamo's doing. Is it gonna push us to be contenders automatically? No, like I said, man, this is all about being patient and trusting the process and hoping that this is gonna work out. So don't get all in a rush. Don't get clustered about those things. Just take it one step at a time. Can this team go in and make a strong playoff push? Probably. Anything can happen in the MLS, in my opinion. But I do think that with some of the moves the Dynamo have made, it shows that they're trying to get better, and hopefully they'll continue working with the Dynamo. Hopefully there'll be some other trades going to be announced, as well as hopefully there's going to be an announcement once the transfer window in January opens up for international moves. So I can't wait for that. I'm excited. Can't wait to see what the Dynamo brings. So let's go ahead and conclude this with comment of the day. Alright, so the comment of the day comes from Wesley Joyner, and his comment was, the MLS draft should be like the NBA and NHL draft, where you can draft foreign players. I'll agree to an extent, and the only reason why I say that, and this is gonna sound really, really bad for me, especially someone that does support the Salvadoran national team, but you would ideally want the MLS to develop and produce American talent. Now, does all the other leagues do have a good quantity of foreign players? Yes, of course they do. But as far as the MLS, the thing that I feel like they haven't really been able to do for a long time is just not develop American players or produce American players, let alone with the problems that the MLS has, which is pay to play, which really ruins the academy system, because obviously it's only grabbing a select group. And then you have the college soccer world, where once again it's a very select group, because not everybody can go into college soccer. So the demographics as far as going into the MLS is just not that great as far as quality players, because when you think about those big name players in soccer, you think of Lionel Messi, who came from literally nothing to signing a contract on a napkin to now being one of the biggest names in the world. You have guys like Cristiano Ronaldo, same thing, playing soccer in the streets of Portugal, and now has become one of the most iconic names in soccer. Not only that, but just people know who he is. Kind of our own version of David Beckham, obviously, because both of them modeled. But but these guys came from nothing and built themselves up to where they are. I mean, now you're even looking at players like Mbappe, who's even doing the same thing. And all these things happen because, you know, teams have opportunities to go in and sign these guys to their youth academy systems and not have to worry about having these kids pay for it, because clearly they're not going to be able to pay for it for where they're at. So I think that's what hurts the MLS a lot, is pay to play. But if I was to do the MLS draft, and as much as I hate the MLS draft, what I would do, honestly, I would get rid of the MLS draft to begin with, because I think it's pointless. But what I would open up, I do like the idea of a combine, and I'll open the combine up to guys ranging from the age of 15 to 22. And the only reason why I say 22 is because once you get to the older ages, they're going to be fighting for a roster spot, and by the time they're going to be starters, they're at that point they're not ready to be for the national team. So 22, that's like the most I'll go for. But between those age groups that's guys that are also getting out of college. So from that age group, they go into the combine, they go and try out, get teams' attention, and the teams can go in and pursue specific players. So this also gives the player options to sign a contract. So there's not putting them in the academy, it's putting them directly into the team, which is what I would ideally do, and that's what I would like to see. Now, sorry, would I open it up to foreign players? I would actually. But obviously the goal is to get American players. And so that's what I would mainly be pushing for. But if there's like a player, like I said, within that age group that probably is without a contract in Brazil or Argentina, or even in Central America or Mexico, or even in Europe or Africa, they're more than welcome to go into the combine, show what they can do, and get their second chance, if you will, to make it pro. So sorry about that. But that's what I would do if I was in charge of the MLS, was just get rid of the MLS draft and just still use the combine only to find as a network to find talent, since right now the youth academy system is just really flawed right now, and that's because of the U.S. Soccer Federation. So that's what I say as far as that goes. But thank you, Wesley, for the comment. And if you guys want to be featured for comment today, make sure you guys drop in the comment section. It could be a question or just a general comment. And if I like it, I'll go ahead and pick it for the next Dynamo video. So before I go, make sure you guys subscribe to Saucy Sports TV, like this video, and share it if you guys think that people need to hear more about Saucy Sports TV. So other than that, man, chucking up a deuce. Y'all stay saucy.